call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. No one to speak for a public forum. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, discussion items. We have the superintendent report. And we have some presentations.
Yes.
Can you guys
I
see
don't
that
know who's
okay?
there.
Is the whole superintendent report us?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Now, can you share your screen? Pete, can you see that?
I'm not seeing it, but I've got it pulled up here so I can
Oh,
follow
okay.
along.
Okay.
Mr. Mosier.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about science. I'm the administrator that is working with the science committee on the science curriculum, kind of addressing some of the questions that were mentioned at our last meeting. But basically, in a nutshell, starting back from the beginning, we are looking for curriculum materials that are aligned to the state standards. And there's actually companies out there that they're nonprofit companies that narrow it down for us, and they tell us if a curriculum is meeting those standards or not. And so that narrows it down. So like for the elementary, I think there was only 3 choices even to pick from. I think there was 3 or 4 for the middle school and for the high school. So there's not a lot of them out there that meet the, and this is very high level criteria of alignment. So that's how we got to the point where we selected what we were going to pilot. All right, so middle school and high school are selected 3, and which was the only 3 that they could select. The other ones didn't meet the criteria of highly aligned. The elementary is piloting 2 of these curriculums, and then what we do is, we developed a leadership team, and we have a science leadership team. I'm sure Bill will talk about. He's got a math leadership team, and that is comprised of members from the elementary, primary, intermediate, middle school, and high school. So it's a district-wide committee, and there's an instructional coach on each one and an administrator on each one. And then from there, we're following you guys have seen this document already, at least those of you guys have been. So we're following our guidelines when it's our year to do what. So it's all split up on first year's, study and research, trying to figure out which curriculums we should pilot. Right now, science is in the piloting year, so at the beginning of the second semester, we started piloting our second at the elementary, middle school, and in the high school. The elementary we all did the same one, first semester. So then we did an evaluation on the first one. Everybody that was involved in the pilot, so like for the elementary, it's a little bit different, because they teach everything. So all the elementary staff and all the science teachers in middle school and high school did a rating scale on how, and we have very structured comments on what they're looking for. And then we'll do the same thing with the other pilots second semester. And then at the end, the district-wide science team will take all that information and make a determination and a recommendation to you guys as far as which one was the most effective.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now.
Can you tell us roughly where we scored for that first semester pilot, or do you think that might be misleading to do that before we have the second?
It is. They only give it a rating based on how they thought it met the criteria that we set in the first semester. So it wasn't comparing each other.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do an individualized one to see how it compared by itself, standalone, and then we'll do a standalone comparison or a standalone evaluation of the second one.
So,
And then we'll take all of those notes, and then the science lead team will make the decision on which one, based on the comments from all the teachers,
gotcha.
that is going to be the most effective.
Sorry.
That's okay. So is this unique to Harlan schools? You say there's only 3 that are really going to fit the state standards. I mean, are others going through this process? Are there best practices that we know that some other schools have been through the process and they found what to be good and not good?
Well, the process itself, and I know Dr. Barnett could probably talk about this more than the process itself we didn't invent. And the other thing I could have mentioned too, so each one of us has an AEA rep on our committee, and they are very knowledgeable in this, because this is what they do. So, like ours from the AEA is Kim Wise, she's a science specialist. That's what she does. She studies science, she goes to state meetings, that's all she does is science. So she's here helping us with our decision-making and bringing us what's out there outside of what we know here in Harlan. But the process, I don't believe is, I mean, I think it's Dr. Barnett, maybe you can.
Yeah, we created the process, Lori, we created it, as an instructional team, some of the administrators and the instructional coaches, and then we are tweaking it as we go, because what we found was we were a little bit too rigorous in our, planning, and, we're gonna stretch out the math a little bit longer. Bill's gonna talk to you about that. We have spoken with other districts, definitely, to see what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. But then again, Kim has worked with 35 different districts in our area, AEA. So she is very helpful in that. Bill will speak to the math consultant who's from a different district, and he is helping us understand what's worked and what hasn't worked in their process, because we're a year or two behind in what he has done prior. So to be totally honest, the district hadn't had a plan like this, so we created the plan in order to put us on track to make sure that we are looking at curriculum on a regular basis and making sure it matches up with the standards and aligns K-12.
So, I guess my question with this is, how often do we typically look at changing curriculums? I mean, or do we, once we get one, do we keep it for 5 years, 10 years, or?
It is a 7-year cycle.
7-year cycle, okay.
Yep, and there's
Based
something
off
that
of
we
that,
do
okay.
every year. So like science, we'll do something every year. Right now is the most rigorous thing that we do, because we're actually in the year of the purchasing year.
Putting a new,
Yes, yep.
installing a new.
Right, so like last year, so Bill's in a different category on that chart that I am, for our, research. So right now, we're in the piloting phase. So last year, we did professional development on science. So we knew best practices in science, updated practices, what the research said in science, so on and so forth, so that we were up to speed on what to pick. Because we didn't want to pick something without knowing first.
Sure.
So that's what we did last year, which I think is where they're at, taking some of your glory.
I just didn't know if only 3 meet the state standards, if we had data like 67% of the schools use this one. Type of thing.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna find that.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of I don't know about math, I've not
Because
seen that one.
does that mean that out of these 3, that all the schools in the state are supposed to use one of the 3, basically, or?
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
They don't have
Really?
to. I mean, they're supposed to allow.
You have to follow the standards, and that's what's hard to understand, because these curriculums are made for every single school across the United States, but all 50 states have different standards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what's hard. And what we have done in the past is say, here's what we're doing for each standard, but we haven't had anything that truly probably aligns from elementary to middle to high school.
If you want to go look at this, it's a website. It's called Ed Reports. So Ed Reports is a non-profit organization. That's what they do. They help. They vet it for us. Thank you. Yep, they vet it for us. So that's what they do. So you can go on there. You can go to Ed Reports. You can Google it. Go to Ed Reports. You can put in high school science, middle school science, elementary science, and it'll give you a breakdown on they either meet, partially meet, or not at all meet. And then it breaks down each one of the criteria that they have. And there's very few that meet all the standards of what they call alignment.
That's what led me to believe, if there's only 3 that fit, that we start seeing some trends with other schools of where they're landing as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
That
like,
makes
what
sense.
if the elementary says, well, we really like this curriculum, and the high school says, or even physical science likes this one, but biology likes this one?
We've had many conversations about that.
Yeah.
We're leaving that on the plate of the committee, because if it may be the case that one of them delivers the instruction better than the other, so like the elementary, they may have done it better, the writers may have done a better job there, so it'll deliver it there better, versus middle school and high school. So we're leaving that open where you can do that. We haven't left the door wide open where at the high school you could have different curriculums for different classes. There, you know, we've instructed that group that they all have to have the same, because there is overlap, and there's, you know, they'll go back over different things. There's prerequisite learning that they might have to know in biology before they get to chemistry, so we want to make sure that that part is consistent. So we've left the door open where it can be something different between buildings, because the ones we've selected all are meeting the minimum criteria of meeting the Iowa core standards. So,
I mean, it makes sense if you can, you know, get it to where it flows from one, because I would assume they build off each other.
They
As it
do.
goes from elementary to middle school to
right.
high school, it builds on each other and you can get the same curriculum throughout.
Right, yep. That, we're looking at it that way, so we'll see, you know, we'll see how they, and they don't make them for everything. So like the Amplify, they don't have one for high school. So there's a company right now called Amplify that has it's the same company that we have for our literacy, but they don't make it for high school. Unless they're starting, you know.
The other hard part about science is they have very few that are even a K-12 curriculum, like, altogether. So math and literacy, there's a little bit more. Science is a lot harder to find something that is vetted through the ed reports and
Right now,
gives a high mark.
there's only one, if you wanted to go K-12, there's only one that meets the criteria of ed reports in all grade levels. There's only one.
Do we teach science all year? I mean, it used to be science was a semester and social studies was a semester in
At the elementary.
Yeah.
Yes, at the elementary, basically it's a 6 week on, 6 week off.
Okay.
So we do 6 weeks of science and 6 weeks of social studies. So it's not done by semester. You still get it all year.
Any other questions?
Jeff, I
Go ahead.
definitely appreciate the work you've all done to get a process in place for this. I think my question and concern is the feedback I've received off of the semester one pilot. Granted, I probably hear from the people that are unhappy the most, but it's been fairly negative. What are we doing to make sure that we aren't putting the students a semester behind as we go through this curriculum pilot process or selection process? Because I would say the feedback I've gotten is that they feel like they lost a better part of a semester of learning.
You know, I haven't gotten that same feedback. That would be unfortunate. Here's what I would say to that. We're teaching the Iowa standards. So the teacher's responsible for teaching the standards even when you have materials. The materials don't teach. The materials support your instruction. You know, so that's why instruction is more important than the materials, although the materials are very, very important. So when they were doing their pilots, we selected units that were part of their curriculum that they hadn't taught yet. Like here at the elementary, I was more involved in that one. We specifically picked units on when we would teach that anyway, so we were just using a different set of materials to teach the same content, if that makes sense. So they're still teaching that
If it does,
content.
I'm not sure it happened.
I didn't hear, sorry, Pete.
Was that more at the secondary level, Pete?
It was.
So Bill and Casey, can you address that?
I don't, we did not catch what Pete said.
Conceptually, what Jeff was saying makes sense, but I'm not sure that's what actually happened at the secondary level.
Well, I know at the middle school level they substituted the materials from what they were using prior. So it was the same concept or unit, but just using different materials. So,
And it was just a unit. I mean, I shouldn't say just a unit, because a unit's important, but it wasn't a whole semester. I mean, they wasn't intended for them to teach it the entire semester.
Ours was probably between 4 and 6 weeks.
Right.
4 and 6 weeks.
So, yep, about a quarter, which is typically how long, like at the elementary level with the one we're piloting, well, both of the ones we're piloting, there's only 4 units. So basically, there's a lot covers in those 4 units. That's what the curriculum calls it, is the unit. But in that unit, 25% of the elementary standards for science are taught during that unit. And so there's 4 different units to get those science practices.
The high school, yet material is the same, or the concept was the same, so they did the same unit topic as they did years past, just with a different curriculum to try it out, and it looks very different. So it's much more inquiry based, a lot more discussion based. It's a different way of teaching science than what we would have seen traditionally in the past. And so to know if that learning, it's a deeper learning, it's not just listen and memorize, it's more learn and understand to the point where you can ask questions or apply it. And so maybe the feedback you heard, Pete, was that they weren't learning, and that could be because it did look different. Also, teachers are trying it too, it's a first time for them, it's different than what they've practiced in the past, and they're trying something new as well, yeah.
Are some of those teachers on the committee?
Yep.
Not all, but some.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all reporting back to the committee?
Mm-hmm. And I've read through, I wouldn't say it's overwhelming unless they're telling you different than what they put on their evaluation of that first semester pilot. There were some pretty harsh comments in there about how they liked it and didn't like it. I'm not saying there wasn't, but that wouldn't have been the theme of the entire evaluation, is what I would say.
From the teachers?
Yes. I mean, obviously, you're going to get it's new. Learning is hard.
Well,
The older you get, learning is hard.
And I was gonna say, how much of them hate it for what it is and how much of them hate it because it was change, because we all hate change.
Yeah, it is change, and that's one of the things too is the way the experts in the research, which are the people that design the Iowa, it's the next gen science standards is what it's called, next generation science. It's basically what Iowa has adopted. It's next gen is national. Iowa has pretty much, they might have made a few changes here and there, has adopted next generation science standards, and it is not like how you and I'm dating myself here, we're taught science as a kid. They're saying that is not what best practice is anymore. So if you were taught that way and want to teach that way, that is not what the experts are saying it should look like.
We went through that with math, because when my kids started bringing math home, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And see, and I still, because I'm a math person, still think we took a step backwards with math. That's just me.
Yeah, so
I'm not saying
I will
you,
say-
I'm saying I don't like how.
I've been tasked to
the
go find what best practice is and what research says and do that, because that's what has been proven to be,
Mhm.
so that's what we're doing, so it's the engineering practices.
I mean,
So you're supposed to be, science and engineering practices is what it talks about.
It just sounds like we're going through with science what we went through with math a long time ago.
No, and I'm not saying you guys, I'm talking
I know.
about
Yeah.
the fact that the powers to be changed it.
Yes,
I
yeah,
don't,
Education is full of
Made it
pendulum
challenging.
swings.
what's that?
Education is full of pendulum swings, and we
Yeah.
hope that eventually it swings to the middle,
Uh-huh.
but it takes
Yeah.
a while to
Yeah.
get to the middle.
It was
Yeah.
challenging for us when we had young kids.
Yeah.
When we didn't know
Well,
how to
I just
teach
don't
them.
think kids, because
The
they
methods
don't have to do the memorization anymore, they don't have to do those
Mhm.
tables, they can't do math in their head
No.
yeah.
anymore.
I think too, though, our policy allows for teachers to bring in other resources, so they aren't necessarily going to say, well, this is the curriculum and be a robot and follow that curriculum. They can
No, they
bring
shouldn't.
in other resources to help them teach concepts
Absolutely.
to meet needs,
Yeah,
because
so-
not every student learns
Yeah, I
the
mean,
same.
this is a conversation that we're having, it's just so hard to grasp. The teacher teaches the students. You don't, we're teaching the students with the help of these materials. Now, we kind of have a little saying in our science group that, you still have the autonomy to go out and bring in things that you believe your student, because every group's different. Every group of kids you have is different. Every class you have is different. This group might get it when you taught it this way, this group might get it when you teach it a different way. You know, the thing is are they understanding the essential concept that we're trying to, that we expect as the state expects? You know, so you still have the autonomy to make those changes without going rogue, is what we say. You can't go rogue. You know, so that's the thing. We have to have some consistency, because if we are teaching third grade, so they get kindergarten to third grade, get this, and then all of a sudden you get to fourth grade and somebody's going rogue, now there's a gap. And so they get to fifth grade and they don't have the same terminology, they don't have the same vocabulary, and now they don't understand what's being taught when they get to fifth grade, so that sets them behind. So you can do it, but you can't go, you have the autonomy, you have to follow, but you can make adjustments as you
You
go.
can supplement, but
Yes.
not do your own.
But
Yeah,
you
I'm
can't
not
just
saying
go-
you can do your own thing,
Right.
but you can supplement.
Right, yep. That's a gray area. You know, but yeah, that's why when you're doing this, we're working on instruction simultaneously as materials. So it's not just about what the materials are, it's what the instruction looks like. She moved it to you.
Yeah.
I think my 30 seconds was up. I did
Yes,
get
sir.
a number of questions, just for the record.
Yeah, so like Jeff said, we're following the same progression. We just started this year, so we're in a different spot. And what we're looking at and focusing on this year is just standards. So the state came out with new math standards that are supposed to be fully implemented now. And so we're making sure that K through 12, are we teaching what we're supposed to be teaching? And do we have an understanding of what, like in third grade, do we really know what second grade's all about and what fourth grade's all about? And at sixth grade level, do we really know what what's going on with fifth grade and what's going on with seventh grade? And our eighth grade, do we know what's going on in seventh grade? Do we know what's going on with algebra? So we are really doing a lot of learning about the standards, so we can see not just what we're responsible for at each grade level, but how that expands grade levels above and below where each teacher's at. So that's what this whole year is about, is studying those. Next year we'll get into instruction and instructional practices and what does good math instruction look like. And then we'll start looking at what Jeff's doing right now, and that is materials. And so what materials fit the core curriculum best, and we would then start piloting some of those materials to see, okay, should we purchase something different, and if so, what lends itself best to us. So that's what we're doing. We have a guy, his name is John Butts. He was a former math teacher, and he taught some lower elementary and upper elementary and middle school. And then he's been working for Harlan AEA, and now he's retired from that and just does it independently. And so he's been coming here to Harlan, getting a lead team of